Be a good one here, and eventually we will like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Help promote and rank up my channel. So, Stargirl Season 1, Episode 9 review, Brainwave. Um, there's really not a lot of negative things in this episode to discuss. Surprisingly, for the second episode in a row, they just knock it out of the park. This episode, the IDBM logline on this one is tensions rise among the JSA members after Courtney suggests who she wants to recruit next to them. Meanwhile, Barbara invites Jordan and his family over for dinner, and Henry Jr. makes a surprising discovery about his father. So we really just picked up where we last left off, and it was a really interesting way to get Henry familiar with his powers, what he didn't know about his father. They did this through tapes that he found in a secret closet, and upon reviewing all of those tapes, he gradually developed his powers, and it's pretty amazing, really organic way to just get him from point A to point B really fast, and have him where he's a force to be reckoned with now. And he's also, because his power's set, he now knows everything about the Justice Society, the Injustice Society. He's right where he needs to be, and they handled the character incredibly well. And they also did a lot of other things that surprised me, such as showing the 7 soldiers. Technically, there's 8, but I guess Pat wouldn't count as one of the 7 soldiers. But Shining Knight, seeing Green Arrow and Speedy on that old school photo, along with like Vigilante, but mostly Green Arrow and Speedy, because Stargirl is supposed to be part of the Arrowverse, but which dimension or Earth or whatever, I can't remember. I think the crossover showed it, the last the Crisis on Infinite Earths or whatever. I think they showed which Earth it was, but obviously it doesn't exist. The Arrow and Speedy she has on here aren't the same as what they have over there. So they did show Shining Knight in present day as the janitor again, sort of tripping out over his broomstick, thinking it's the cosmic staff. But most of the episode was really well handled. I thought there was going to be some pushback when Courtney did suggest that Brainwave Jr. join the team. For obvious reasons, it doesn't sit well with Yolanda, and this all developed naturally, the stakes. However, when Yolanda, I do have to say it wasn't the best thing to do for Yolanda to confront Brainwave Jr. For her to confront him the way she did, I felt it was only going to make things worse. However, they spun it on here where it made things better, because Courtney had a conversation with Brainwave Jr. about digging a little deeper so you don't just paint everybody as a villain, because it's not always that black and white. And maybe the surface thoughts are bad, but if you dig a little deeper, you'll find that there's reasons behind the anger. And that really worked out. However, when she was saying all this to him, I'm like, well, why don't you just tell him to dig a little deeper and read into you? So I thought that was a flaw, that she didn't right there on the spot tell him to dig deeper into her thought process and her thought pattern, because it was clear for him. I can see from his perspective why he would think that his father wasn't a bad guy, because on those tapes his father does say that, these people were bad. The people that he hurt, they had bad thoughts, bad intentions, and he hurt them. And that humanity is monsters. I can totally see why Brainwave Jr., Henry, whatever you want to call him, bought into that. But with him confronting Courtney and beating her down the way he did, she could have been like, I'm not a bad person, and your father attacked me. So I thought that was a missed opportunity right there, and that wasn't particularly well handled. However, Brainwave was really well handled for most part of the episode, and they've already got him to the point where he can use all of his powers to the full extent, and they did it relatively fast, but in an organic way where it doesn't come off as a cheat, a way to just skip over a lot of training and all that. And another thing in this episode that was pretty great was Pat having Beth and Rick look into the history of their local town and why the ISA is really here, why the Injustice Society is really here. Having that looked into, and the dinner. The dinner was what happens at the dinner when Icicle and his family get invited over to Courtney and Pat's, and they have this big old family dinner. I like the camera shots at the table when they're all sitting together, and I thought this could be really bad. It was really interesting to see these two families sit down together at this dinner, because the villain Icicle, they've written him so well that he's likable, but he's a bad dude. And you just know something's going to come out of this. Having these two families sit there, there's no way that one of them's not going to notice something off about the other ones. And as you would guess, in a very subtly written way, Courtney notices that something's off. It has to do with a hot pan, a hot plate, or whatever, that she had to use oven mittens to handle, that Icicle just picks it up with his bare hands. And now, for her to conclude that, well, maybe he's Icicle, I don't know if I buy into that 100%, but to conclude that there's something off about this, definitely, I buy that. I definitely buy that right there, and for it to be for it to first go to her head that it's Icicle, though, I don't 100% buy that. However, he doesn't look that. I don't know how good. I don't remember how good of a look she got at him when he was in his ice shape or form. But if she got a good look at him, then it would be a no-brainer. However, what happens when it comes down to the stuff in the basement? And I also got to say that Sydney is a bitch. A real. And it was good to see that little, even though there's only like one scene that follows up on what happened to her. It's good to see that her father just shut her off in a caged room, because I just can't stand her. And the way all this is coming together, the New America thing, it's finally coming together now that they know Brainwave Jr. is active. But the biggest twists in here are, I was not expecting Courtney's mother to walk in on her and Pat and the Cosmic staff floating around. I don't know how that's going to go when it comes to the next episode. But the other thing that surprised me was Brainwave waking up when his son handled the lawyer in the room, and Brainwave wakes up, and the way he behaved, the way he responded to waking up, I don't know if he still has his powers, and now his son just has the powers. I don't even know it. It's just the way he reacted to his son being in the room and what just happened. I don't even know if he's going to remember being Brainwave, or how much he's going to remember. And an interesting thing I found, they kind of cheated with pointing out that this was decades ago, when it shows Henry's father back in the lab when he first started to develop his powers. It said decades ago. That's kind of a way to cheat, to not frame it in a certain time. But for creative reasons, to not frame it in a certain time, because you don't know when it's going to be set, and you don't want to constrain yourself to whatever time period you toss it in. It just said decades ago, so now they can, bring that up whenever they want it and set it give it a timestamp later that tells what they want it to tell. But this episode, thought was fairly good. 8 out of 10 easily. I have nothing negative to say about it, honestly. I didn't like Yolanda's confrontation with Henry. I thought that wasn't well done. I thought that could have been better handled. I could see why the character would lash out at Henry, considering Courtney's position and considering their past together, why she would lash out. But I didn't think that was the best way to execute it or handle it. But everything else, I thought was pretty well handled and amazing. So I'd give this episode 8 out of 10. And I can't wait to see what the next episode does, because the last 2 episodes have been really, really strong and really great with hardly little to no weaknesses. But that's the review there. Leave your comments below. Favorite, least favorite moments. Like, subscribe, share, and stay awesome. Rock on.